We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey. I speak from the role of a patient and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak in the role of a caregiver. And today, I actually show off your shirt before we get started.
Today we got this swag. We got this. Yes, Tillamook. Who doesn't love Tillamook unless you're like intolerant?
Yeah, I know.
Certain things.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Tillamook had sent Mason some of this merch earlier.
Swag,
and then this past week, if you go onto Tillamook's website, Mason is on there. And, they sent him a thank you, and he received this huge box of like these amazing different types of cheese. Like it was an expensive box, so cool and so unexpected. And it was the day you got home from the hospital, it was
it was a really cool surprise.
Yeah, it was a neat surprise to have it there. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And so thank you to Tillamook.
Yes, thank you so much, Tillamook.
To any of our listeners who can tolerate cheese, like Mason is fortunate enough to be able to. They're a great brand to support. They are have been nothing but kind and just an awesome class act of a company. Yes. And so we're happy to support them. So
I think what is really cool is when such a big company like that does something special like that. The bigger the company is, sometimes the more corporate they are and busy and stuff. But I think it's really cool when a company can reach out and do something like that and actually connect with its customers a little bit more and say, well, this company that I'm buying from actually is really kind and caring about its customers.
Yeah. It's a neat place. It's a great place to visit in Oregon if you're ever there. It's just really cool feel, like Mason kind of said. It's like doesn't feel like corporate.
No.
It really does still feel like a family owned kind
business,
of
even though
business
it's absolutely not. There's machines, packers and all that stuff. But it still feels like just a relaxed little thing, And
we're sending them a thank you. And we're in the process of making it. We're making them some candles that'll be in the scent of their ice creams. So that's kind of fun. So
I have to be careful what we say on here because what if they know what the price is?
I know.
Like Tillamook watches our podcast.
I know. I don't think they do. I think we're okay saying it here.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's not something we're going to sell, obviously, because we're using their product, but we're going to make it and send it up to them as a thank you to hand out
their
to
little
people.
gift.
Yeah.
So very, 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 very limited items because only they're getting them.
And also speaking of other cool companies, if for any of you out there who golf.
Oh, yes.
If any of you are familiar with the company Titleist. So if you're familiar with Titleist, we know of the brand. Mason does golf, so we know it through them. What's your big news?
The big news is I am a Titleist staff member.
Yeah. He signed a contract.
That is really cool.
Yeah. And
one in like 3,000.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool honor. And so he got a bunch of really awesome Titleist products. Really cool stuff. And they had him, he signed the contract, and his golf coach is a PGA member and also on Titleist staff. So it was an honor for him.
It was really funny. He said instead of going to the greens to go hit some balls, hit some shots, he goes, let's go to the golf center, the sports center, that's what it's called, the sports center. And so we sit down and he's like, I got some news for you. And so the way he starts it off, he goes, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh no, you're leaving? He's like, I'm joking. But so then he starts talking about how he's a Titleist staff member.
He'd gone to like not a convention, but it's like where you can buy golf products. And so he had just gone to one of these, and he was telling us about how Titleist acknowledged all of their staff on these really neat plaques on the wall.
And that was really cool. And it was like, oh, that's really cool for you, because he had a picture of his plaque and everything, and he's showing us
a trade show.
A trade show, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Okay. There we go.
Why did the word escape?
Oh, it didn't escape you for that long.
Sorry, to interrupt you.
But he was showing us all that, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! I'm really happy for you." And then apparently the gift just kept on giving.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds familiar. But then we go outside, and there's this not piece of paper, obviously.
Yeah, it
It's
was
a
in
lot
a
more than
nice
that. A nice
folder,
envelope
which
and
we
all
have
this.
somewhere around here. I was gonna grab it, but
But
yeah.
but I wrote my signature in it. There's all these things, the terms, and like if
Mhm.
you sign up for this, if you're a Tyler staff member, if you do this or this, you have to wear this, this, and this. And it was really cool.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
then there's this little fireplace over by the eating area, and there were all these Titleist like merch things. There were
It was amazing. Yeah.
So my golf instructor calls me Masonian.
Yes. It's Mason's golf nickname.
My golf nickname.
Masonian.
Masonian. And so there were Titleist golf balls, and they had Masonian printed on them.
Yeah,
And
they had custom.
and they were really nice ones too. They're really nice ones.
Yeah.
And then there were alignment sticks and
Yeah.
the golf markers, and there's
Just
gloves and a lot more things I'm
Yeah,
forgetting about.
it was
so cool.
so kind. And so the rep, his name is Scotty. Shout out to him. And
Yeah, Scotty.
I'm pretty sure Scotty's not listening, but
No.
but
Imagine if
he was.
Scotty is.
I don't think he has IBD or is paying attention
No.
to this yet. But he was the one who initiated the contract, on behalf of his coach Rick. And so Mason was invited, and pretty exciting. It was really like unexpected and just so cool. So another cool company, another
cool
great company.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to go to the Genesis Invitational, and
The weather looks a little.
Unfortunately, on the day we're going, and in Southern California, of all places, it looks
the funny
like
thing is,
rain.
It didn't rain at all during Christmas.
Yeah.
It didn't rain all this entire year. It hasn't been raining, and all of a sudden, the day
like
that the PGA signs up, the day PGA is having their competition, then there's rain.
Yeah. So
wow.
We're gonna play by ear, and I think if it does rain, as long as they can play, we will stand in the rain. So I think that is the plan.
Got our Titleist umbrellas.
I know. I just can't believe it. It's exciting though. So it was cool. It was cool to be invited to get to go to that. So anyways, that's enough. Most of you out here, I don't know if you care about golf. I don't know if you care about cheese, but hopefully you did enjoy these stories, and maybe you care a little bit
because
more.
Next episode, that's all that's going to be about. It's all going to be cheese and golf.
I know we should rate all the different, because we got so many different types that we're sampling, all the cheeses. We're picking like one at a time to sample and see what we think about it. So maybe we'll have to share that. But today we're going to talk about something very different. We're going to kind of swerve here and go into something different.
We're going to take a U-turn and go.
Yeah. Going to talk about actual IBD stuff.
Yes.
And so one of the reasons I've wanted to talk about this for a long time, and it was something that came up. The Crohn's and Colitis had a congress past couple days. They had their Crohn's and Colitis Congress. And one of the takeaways that was listed for day one was how non-invasive intestinal ultrasounds may revolutionize IBD.
Interesting.
And, I think that's interesting because we've heard about these for a little while.
I've heard about the ultrasounds, and they sound real nice.
And I keep wondering, like, we're just now figuring this out.
Just figured that out.
And I think
Search about
it. Because I think a lot of you may have questions and may have heard of these. Some of you may have not. And so I think it's a great thing to talk about, especially since the Crohn's and Colitis Congress was just discussing this. And your doctors, if they did attend, they may come back and may bring this up to you. So let's talk about them. So first of all, and did you know that they are used in other countries already?
I think I heard that this morning, but I actually did not know.
So I was telling your dad this stuff because I was like, this is amazing. So, and some of you listening may already know this, depending where you live. It is already a standard of care in Canada and many parts of Europe. The weird thing is it hasn't gained the same popularity or foothold that it has in the other countries here in the United States.
Which is weird because, we don't like pain here in the United States. I don't think anyone does.
I mean, there's so many benefits to this.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
So it just surprises me. And, this had come up in conversation. We'd had a meeting with his GI back in November. And I actually
the people behind the screen may not know what we're comparing it to. What is it taking
Like, what is it taking the place
What is
up?
taking the place up? Yes.
So, yeah, so we'll kind of be talking about that, but we'll
All
mention
right.
it here too. I mean, we're not going to go too in depth into it, so it's
Mhm.
fine. And so it's a lot of times you'll have MRIs, MREs, and CAT scans, colonoscopies, scopes, so like endoscopies, those kind of things. And so this doesn't necessarily like replace like a colonoscopy
No.
because, like you said, you have to get biopsies to
Yeah,
see how things are.
Obviously, you can't do that with an ultrasound.
Right. But they are saying that it can be used to track a lot of those same things that the other tests do. And
Which is really nice.
yeah, and I'll go more into the benefits of why, but so I'm not sure, what other countries are doing if they have replaced MRIs with this, if they have replaced CAT scans, because it appears to pick up the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be great.
Really nice.
And I do think in some cases it can take the place of scopes for certain things.
Obviously, you can't do a biopsy with an ultrasound, but
right.
You can't because this is okay. In an ultrasound, you just put something up to the area you're trying to scan, right?
I think it's like a Doppler, uses Doppler.
Okay.
So they just put like a wand on your stomach,
which is a lot better than going into a giant tube that sounds like a jackhammer.
I know.
And especially if you're a little claustrophobic, that's never fun.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. These were brought to the United States by Dr. Bincy Abraham from Houston Methodist Hospital. They were the first hospital center to provide intestinal ultrasounds to adults in the United States.
Interesting.
And so that was 2019. That's pretty recent. That was a year before you're diagnosed.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So really relatively new here. So Houston Methodist was the first center to provide this service.
That's cool.
And then they're pretty famous in the IBD community. I mean, Dr. Dollinger and Dr. Dubinsky are from Mount Sinai.
Oh,
and so you search them out. They're really incredible people. Dr. Dollinger from Mount Sinai ended up going over to Europe to train how to use these intestinal ultrasounds. And so after doing that, he was able to come back here and lead the country's first training courses for intestinal ultrasounds. And that was in around September 2022. Huh. So again, not that long ago.
And so the training, you can train for these here,
you have to train. Yes. So
but you don't have to go to like Europe to train.
Not anymore, because Dr. Dollinger did that. And
Thank you, Dr. Dollinger.
Yes. And so now he became certified to be able to train people. And I'm sure since then, I didn't look into all of the people, but there are people, once you probably become trained, you can become certified to also train others. And the reason this was interesting to me too, was Dr. B, when we had a meeting back in November with her, I had asked this question about when is Rady Children's going to get one of these ultrasounds? Like, you guys take care of a huge population of IBD patients,
especially like kids,
like kids.
And kids are gonna like that a lot more than an MRI.
And from what I had heard at that point, these were really good. These ultrasounds are excellent at what they do. It's reliable. This isn't like kind of like what you're just asking. It's not like secondary. This is like first line of defense stuff now that they are using. They want to become more routine with this disease. And so she had mentioned at the time, you do have to, what they like you to do is to buy the machine first. And then, so of course the hospital has to raise the
funding for,
or whatever, get a grant, however they're going to do that. And then she said someone would have to go to one of these training centers to become trained on it. And so there's a little bit of a process, but I'm thinking our hospital, with where we're located, with such, it's amazing that we don't have one yet. And I want to say the hospital children's in LA may have one, but I don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure, but
I thought I'd heard that. Not entirely sure. And then, because most of these are for, again, adults, but they're using these in the pediatric field too. And so in 2021, Dr. Dubinsky and Dr. Dollinger, they had written about a study they did in regards to pediatric patients. So their findings were that the small bowel ultrasounds were safe, valuable, cost-effective
Oh, wow. Yeah, interesting.
way
Like that.
to assess healing on therapy like infliximab or Remicade for, So they actually wrote about this in 2021. And then in 2022, obviously, Dr. Dollinger went to Europe and got training on this. And so let's go more into the benefits of
the
this
ultrasound itself.
ultrasound. Yeah. So number one.
So the number one is it's not painful. I mean,
Right.
who doesn't like that?
Right. You're not required to fast or do a bowel prep.
That's nice.
One thing I had read in doing my research, one hospital did like you to fast for 4 hours if possible before doing this. Just might have created a better
4
picture.
hours is better than like
that's like
an
nothing.
entire day.
You could eat your breakfast, make your appointment 4 hours later, and then have lunch after or in between. That's not a big deal.
No, because the current thing for like an MRI or something like that, you have to do for
for scopes.
Scopes.
Yeah, I think MRI is not as many hours because
the scopes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so, but most times not required to fast or do that bowel prep, which is really tough.
That's really nice. Yeah.
And that's one of the things on Mason that actually
I did not like.
You didn't like, and it also, we think, caused you to flare because it flushed out all the good flora and bacteria in your system, and he ends up flaring after scopes. And so
this is really annoying because it's like they get the results back and they're like, hey, it looks like you're all good. You're doing better, and it's like, and then I'm in a flare again.
Yeah, and you feel it's very frustrating. So for some people, they will flare from scopes. And so the other thing so this is one with the MRI or MRE, you're not required to drink contrast. And so that's the one you drank before you went to the MRI machine. They had that lemon breeze or whatever it was. Yeah.
Freeze.
Yeah, I don't know, but you didn't mind it for whatever reason. You drink it. So I was like, okay, cool. But that a lot of people react to, makes them not feel as well. They don't like to do that. So you don't even have to drink contrast.
That's really nice.
Also really big. No radiation.
No radiation. Okay, that's nice. You're not taking doses.
Yeah, no, that's huge, which means you can do these more often
and not have to risk
without that risk. And so that is where I could see could take the place of it, because you're not getting the radiation exposure. They probably prefer to do this, and they can do more of these. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
One of the other things I read, they can be used on women who are pregnant and can't undergo invasive procedures. So if you have IBD and you are pregnant, you can still have one of these. And they can also be used on people who've had a colectomy with a J pouch and new ileum. So they can also, and then I think it was Dr. Dollinger said it can take place in a 10-minute visit.
That's really nice because scopes take like,
I mean, we can talk about that right now since you're mentioning that. So let's outline this, because let's just say your doctor wants you to get scopes. So typically the process here would be you would have your appointment in the clinic with your doctor. They would tell you, we want you to have scopes or have an MRI done, and that can take weeks or months in our case. It usually takes months for us to schedule this at our hospital.
It's that,
right. So at that point, so if they're trying to figure out, is his Stellara working? Well, 3 months out can be a very big difference in what is happening if it is not working. And so you have to wait that. Then after you schedule it, you have to do all that fun prep. You have to go in for the procedure. It's expensive. You have to pay, go under anesthesia.
It takes like a few hours.
Right. It's a lot. And then after that, you get the results, and then you have to meet with your doctor so you can discuss the next steps. So this is
just something you can do when you go to the hospital for your checkup, and you're just like, hey, can I get my ultrasound?
Yeah. And so the intestinal ultrasound completely changes that. It can save a lot of time, damage.
Yeah, damage.
Immediately in real time. What's going on. You walk into that doctor's office, and if she's concerned that your biologic isn't working or your steroid, whatever, they can sit you down within 10 minutes. The doctor will know.
Figure it out. It's not like, okay, well, in 3 months, I'm going to need to check up on that.
So the ultrasound can show, like we just said, real time of what your disease activity is doing. It can show improvement. In some cases, they said it shows if you're in remission. So you can find out at your appointment Yeah, which is to me, I mean, for those of us who have been dealing with this, that's huge. And to feel like you could get answers
and just
that quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not have to sacrifice anything. Well,
yeah.
in some cases.
And it would have been helpful, like Dr. Dollinger had mentioned, and this was something that stuck out to me as a caregiver. It can help parents make decisions because, like, we had decided to put Mason onto a biologic. We knew it was a lifelong immunotherapy treatment. This was a big decision. And so having an ultrasound, where you could sit there, you could see it with them, they can discuss it. It could help you make what you feel is a more informed decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's just, to me, these are all just incredible reasons that I can't understand
why you wouldn't want it.
Been here
Why don't we have it yet in a pediatric place of all places?
Nobody wants to have certain procedures done. Nobody likes to. It's uncomfortable or it's whatever. And so having something like this for kids might make kids feel easier to talk about stuff because it's not like, oh, if I say something,
they're gonna have to give me
they're gonna be right. I don't want to get scoped. So it's like this, you can go in and it's a very
be more honest, and you don't have to worry about getting in a scope or an MRI or all that dang stuff.
Which I think will lead to better communications between a doctor and patient. And I think as far as caregivers, it would make our jobs probably easier in making sure that we can see everything too in real time and understand what our child is going through, understand maybe if they're feeling pain in a certain area, or maybe, you can correlate things. And I think that helps.
Yeah, definitely.
And so one of the things I was thinking of, because since these can check your response to a medication, which this is really valuable. I think this to me is one of the biggest things too, is when you start a new biologic, you want to stay committed to it. You don't just want to jump off and switch. Right. Well, we've talked about this. It didn't
work and I was on it for a week or so.
Right.
Next one.
And you can actually you can chart results. Like you can do an ultrasound when they start it. And then they come in 4 weeks later for an appointment, do another ultrasound. You can monitor it and see like how it's going. And I think this will lead to more, just having more research on how effective these drugs are, how well they're working. I think it's extremely important.
That is really cool because you get to see the difference and all that stuff, and you get to see how it's
and
how it's working, but
it's not just the asking questions and you filling out stuff and them trying to figure out if it's really working, and then how to make a decision to abandon one and go to a new one is a really big decision.
Because I think one of the things is, like, obviously you can't just be doing scopes every 4 weeks. It's not good at all. You can't do MRIs like that. And then when we were on Remicade, they're like, so are you feeling any better? They don't want to do a scope because they just did one in the hospital.
Right, they just did it. I mean, they can.
And then there's like the placebo effect because you feel like you're on something, so it should change. But with this, you're able to do it every single time, and so they can see, it's not doing anything.
Right.
So you don't have to say, well, I think.
Right. And maybe if you are feeling, I think it is working, they can check and say, you're right. Actually, it is working. Or it's not. So I think that is amazing because I think that'll save a lot of people from not, from leaving a biologic without having to, or it may help doctors figure out if they're on the right track and increase dosages to change intervals. And so one of the things I was thinking, and I didn't read this, but my thought is this would help insurance, because instead of, like, I just know, like, when they want to go into dual biologics, there's not a whole lot of research out there on pediatrics with dual biologics to back this up. And if the way we were doing it, using it as a bridge at first, if we were using those ultrasounds, you could have taken that same day and said, look at how well this is working for him. Same day you have the ultrasound, take an image, send it to insurance as part of your appeal.
Can have even more proof.
Right. And I think that would maybe help, instead of, insurance doesn't have any proof, just have the word of the doctor saying that it looks like it's working well. You would have this hard proof in photos of the ultrasound,
as if the living child isn't good enough proof for the insurance company.
I know it's already,
now you have,
but you have that proof. And I think, in my opinion, that would help when you don't have a lot of research. You have it showing that it's helping you, because
insurance, please look.
Yeah. So this disease can be so individual for people. So I think it's important to have those individual results to show how something is working. So I think that would be that's just my thought.
Definitely.
But and so also something else to use it for is to check for disease recurrence after surgery. So yeah, that is helpful. And so again, it's a painless way to check and see how a surgery has progressed. And so some of the things it picks up, because we're talking about how wonderful this is, and this is kind of like in relation to your question a little bit about what could this replace. So some of the things that this can find, which you'll see are similar in MREs or scopes, it can pick up most parts of the large bowel and the major parts of the small bowel. Those can be easily visualized. Heard some like the rectum and other parts might be a little more difficult depending on the person, how things are. But it can pick up inflammation, bowel thickness, strictures, fistulas, and abscesses.
Oh, wow, all of those.
So that's amazing.
That's helpful.
Right?
It's very helpful.
In a 10-minute appointment.
It's just in a 10-minute appointment. It's not like you have to get anything fancy for it.
Right. And so instead of waiting to like a stricture or bowel thickening, has gotten, had 3 or 4 months to progress, you can look at it and you can in real time track this and see how it's going. And so I really, really hope hospitals start adopting this here in the United States.
That would be so cool.
And I think it will save
that would be
money.
So
yeah, I know you would be, huh?
Insurance would be too.
Yeah. And so I think it would save a lot of patients money in the long run, which would make insurance happy.
When you do the MRI, there's a lot more energy that goes into that giant machine, all the magnets, all that stuff.
Right.
And then when you do a scope, it's kind of like a surgery, kind of.
It is. So it's expensive.
People around, and then you have to have not the concoction,
the anesthesiologist who is there, who administers that.
Oh, that's expensive.
Right.
And then another thing that's nice is with an MRI and a scope, you have to get an IV.
True.
To get the
right. You either get the dye, the contrast, or you have to for the anesthesia, you're put out with it. Yeah.
Anesthesia. And the problem with that is
I mean, you're a pro at them, but
I'm a pro at them, but the problem is you want to save scar tissue while you can. You want to save your veins while you can. Save for something important. Obviously, it is important, but if you can save them, it's great.
And don't you think people would be more apt to say yes to an ultrasound for a kid than saying you have to get an IV?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Right? Like, I think you could convince kids and adults to say, this is just a simple, easy test. We can do this right here.
There's no...
Yeah. So I think for multiple reasons, and I think for the trauma associated with this disease, the things that they go through, this would be something very, not very dramatic and not very traumatic. And it would be, I think, just a great improvement to this disease and monitoring. And so, yeah, so I just thought it was a really important thing to bring up, because it still seems so new here. I know some of you listening have already had these in use at your hospitals.
It's really
cool. Yeah, and so I just hope that certain places also pick up on this, or maybe even allow us to go to a different hospital to have these tests done if they don't have it at their own. I don't know how that would work, but I mean, I would drive to LA. It's not too much different than going to San Diego from where we're at.
And then you try going home at 4:00.
Yeah, I know. You'd have to make an early appointment. I was just surprised that it was just finally mentioned at the Crohn's and Colitis Congress and getting popularity.
And it was in 2019. And
yeah. So but I mean, I guess here they like proof and they like to see results, and I guess they're finally seeing what they like. But other countries have already proven that it's working. Yeah. So,
that's not enough proof.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some more. I tried to keep track of that so we could get the takeaways, so we could discuss a few of them more in depth on here and make sure we're sharing important stuff with you guys. So
I just use facts.
Yeah, I know we don't try to do that ever here. So unless we're just talking about our own fun stuff. So, yeah. So anyways, that's about it.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast that everything in it made sense with each other, like cheese and golfing and
I know
and
intestinal ultrasound,
because that all can be tied to each other somehow.
I'm sure in our world it is. So yep. Yep. You guys can also see Mason's pictures when he signed his contract. You can see the Tillamook gift. It's all on our Instagram at Team IB Determined.
I wonder if you could put up the picture.
I will.
Okay, yeah.
I can do that.
Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. But otherwise you guys go there, visit the Reggie Project, which we keep promising we're going to do a show on again to talk to you guys about it so we can get some of our new listeners to participate. So we're going to remind you guys, about that because it is something that raises awareness and we think everybody, can play your part and you don't have to do much. Very simple. You don't have to speak or anything like that, but we're going to help give you a voice. And I think that is something that more people need to do with this disease and share their stories. So we'll go more into that. And you guys can listen to us on any podcast station, like Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and we'll have a link
to Buzzsprout,
which will show all the other places, but those are the main places you can listen and you can watch us too.
Yes, you can. So there's YouTube podcasts and there's also YouTube videos.
When I listen to podcasts, I like if I'm running and I'm on like an elliptical or something like that, if not like running on the street, we do that.
Running on the street.
We do go running, but we do not run and listen to podcasts at the same time.
We don't have our headphones on though.
No, we're careful. But when I'm at home and if I'm, using one of the, we have a spin bike, we have an elliptical, things like that. I think sometimes instead of just listening, I do enjoy watching a show. So, we try to do the same thing here, depending how you are. You might like to watch. You might just like to listen.
Listen to it on your walks, runs,
whatever.
Drives. Don't watch us. Don't watch us while you're on your drives.
No. Listen. You can listen
to us though.
Yeah, you can listen.
Not too loud though. Make sure you can hear the sirens if you need to. Or
yes, be responsible.
Be responsible.
So with that, guys, we will be back in a few weeks with another episode. So have a good weekend, week, day, like we always say, a good everything.
Everything. Have a karma-tastic week.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Oh, wait, hang on, I forgot to say. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to be notified every time we post a new video. Make sure to hit that bell icon.
Okay.
That was probably too fast for you to even hear that, but I still got it.
And welcome to any new subscribers. Happy to have you guys.
And please leave comments. We love getting your
messages,
as long as they're kind.
Yeah, Mason doesn't want the other one.
We don't want negativity.
But we're happy to try and talk about things that are important and relevant to you guys. So please feel free to suggest any ideas of something you'd like to hear more about or ask questions that we can answer for you guys. Yeah. So all right, guys. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks on the next
episode.
All right. Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.